Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be using some of the oldest makeup products in my collection to create this entire face of makeup. Most of these date back to around 2017, 2018, but a few of them are quite a bit newer. So if you want to see all the products that I used to create this complete look, then just keep watching. Alright, so the first oldest item that I have is my eyeshadow primer. I have this mini Fenty Beauty one. I've talked about it before. It came in a little set, and this is really the only eyeshadow primer I have right now, and I bought this exactly a year ago in May of 2022, and it is still going strong. Doesn't seem to be running out anytime soon, and I generally enjoy it. I don't know if it's one that I would purchase again when it's gone, just because it is a higher end brand. So if I were to buy it individually, it would be a little pricier. But that is my oldest eyeshadow primer. Next, my oldest eyeshadow palette that I have still in my collection that I'm using is the ABH Modern Renaissance palette. And I bought this in June of 2017. So that's pretty darn old, but again, like the eyeshadow primer, it seems to still, be going strong. I've definitely gotten a lot of use out of this, but let's create a nice everyday look with this today. And I'm just gonna use the brush that's in the palette. So I'm gonna start just with like some blending shades over here, kind of a mixture of these. Yeah, I just thought it would be interesting to kind of go through and see what types of items in my collection I kind of am keeping for a long time and are taking a long time to use, whether that's because it's just a product that takes a long time or I just have multiples of that type of product. Kind of think about why I do that and how many options of things I really need. And then maybe, I did kind of recently do a little bit of a makeup declutter, which I will link that below. But if there's anything that I use that I'm just like, wow, this actually is really bad and I don't like this anymore, then this could be a chance to kind of pass it on or just get rid of it. So I'm going to darken up the corner. I'm going to use this Antique Bronze shade for the outer corner. Not trying to do too crazy today. Alright, and then I'm going to use the Primavera shade right here for my all over lid shade. Again, keeping it pretty simple and straightforward today. Just a nice everyday look. Yeah, that color's nice. It just kind of brightened up the lid a little bit. So I'm gonna go back into those blending shades and just kind of redo the crease very lightly. All right. So that's one thing I do really like about this palette. It does tend to seem like it would go more pink, but if you kind of stay in this realm, it can still be just like a neutral look, which is what I wanted for today. All right, so for eyeliner, my oldest liquid liner is this Tarte liner. It was a double-ended one where one side was a pencil, one side's the liquid pen, and like I don't know what it is, but this pen, like I do feel like it is starting to dry out finally, but I have had this, I don't even know, at least 2 years I think. So I don't know, we're gonna use the liquid liner side today. I've been using it in my everyday drawer just to try and use it up, because again, liquid liners is something that I don't tend to keep a lot of around because they do dry out, although apparently not this one. So I'm gonna line my upper lids with this black liquid liner side. Okay, so just kept it simple with a simple black line straight across the lid. So now let's move on to face. I'll do mascara and everything later. I like to do mascara after my face is pretty much done, after I've sprayed my setting spray and everything, just so it doesn't flake or run or get smudged while I'm doing other things on my face. Okay, so kind of like the eyeshadow primer, I don't tend to keep a lot of face primers around I don't really use face primer every single day, so I just don't have a large collection of it. So my oldest one is this Bite Changemaker primer. I got this on like super clearance when they were having their like going out of business sale. And so I bought this in August of 2022. So it's not a year old yet. And honestly, I've maybe used it a handful of times. So we were going to kind of try it out today. If you missed my last Project Pan video, I'm currently panning the Bite Changemaker foundation. So I will link that playlist below so you can see everything that I've used up already in 2023 and what I'm currently working on trying to pan and use up. And yeah, that foundation is one of them. I don't have a primer in there currently, but I did earlier in the year. So again, primers are just something that I just don't tend to keep a lot of around. So it felt pretty good. It's like a mixture of like a moisturizing, but then I can still kind of feel that like silicone-y feel, but not anything like crazy. So yeah, it just says it's a skin optimizing primer. And again, can't buy this anymore anyway, but that's the primer that we used, almost a year old. The foundation that I'm going to use, that's my oldest, I don't know if this is going to match my coloring right now, but this is the NARS Sheer Glow foundation in the color Punjab. I bought this in 2018, and this was the foundation that I wore on my wedding day. And I also bought the pump that you can buy to go with it. So we're going to see if we can make this work today. So I'm just gonna use a brush. Let's start small just in case. Yeah, I do remember because at the time I was getting married like after summer, so I was probably a little more tan in that moment. But it's actually not terrible. But then it's kind of one of those things where, like, I know it's not that big of a deal, but like, since it is my wedding foundation, I almost like I've thought about trying to pan it before, and then I'm like, I don't know, is it weird to kind of want to keep the foundation for nostalgic reasons? Like, is that just wasteful? Maybe. So I don't know, I'm kind of contemplating maybe after I use up the foundation in my current project pan, maybe I should think about doing this one. But I don't know. We'll see how I feel, because it's not like they don't still make NARS foundations, so I could always buy it again, and it's not like, I don't really know what the point of saving it is. It's just one of those things that feels nostalgic when you're like, oh, that's my wedding thing, I don't want to throw it away, or I don't want to use it up. Also around my wedding, which was almost 5 years ago now, that's kind of when I was first, not like getting into makeup. I had watched YouTube for years, but I had never really, you know, had the income or the means and justification to be spending a lot on high-end makeup. So like buying that foundation for my wedding day was just like such a big deal and such a splurge. But like it felt like if I was gonna buy something for my wedding day, like it made sense for it to be something high-end that I also knew had good reviews and was gonna last all day. Because I remember I did debate between this and the like Estee Lauder Double Wear. And then I think I went to the makeup counter in like Macy's or wherever and tried the Estee Lauder one and was just like, you know, I know on your wedding day you do want like a heavier makeup application so that like it shows up in photos and stuff. But I just remembered it was like so heavy and full coverage that I was like, I'm probably just gonna like sweat this off and then it'll look 10 times worse. Like I need something a little lighter that you can build this up. And so the fact that this is like the Sheer Glow, I think worked out really well, because I did my own makeup for my wedding minus my eyes, but I did all of my face and like lips and everything. So I will try to find a picture and insert it here so we can see how my whole makeup look came together that day using this foundation, and actually I think at least one other product in here today. So speaking of which, my oldest cream bronzer is my Chanel cream bronzer. I'm not 100% sure when I bought this because I didn't start really tracking my makeup purchases until, I don't know, 3 years ago. And so at this point, I think I might have bought this either from Nordstrom or from the actual Chanel website. So I don't really have a receipt or like anything, like an account to track it with. But I know this is fairly old. But I also did use this on my wedding day. And it just depends. Some cream products, if they're like super emollient and creamy, I'll put them on under foundation. But this one I feel like is stiff enough. And I mean, granted, I know this is like 5, 6, 7 years old, so the stiffness might just be from age. But I mean, you can see the color still is there and pays off. But I remember it always being a little stiff. So I don't feel the need to put it underneath my foundation as much. Whereas like the, what's the one? The Makeup Revolution one that I really like. That one is definitely more like emollient and like slick. So I do feel like if I put it under my foundation, it kind of helps it blend in. Whereas if I put it on top, sometimes it'll just blend away the foundation. So that's just kind of how I interpret that. Okay, so now I'm just gonna kind of buff that in with this other Real Techniques brush. That's the only cream product I'm gonna use. I didn't feel like using a cream blush today, and also I really only have like one cream blush, and it's my pretty much brand new one from Rare Beauty, so didn't really feel the need to include that. But we are gonna move on to face powder. My oldest powder, which again, I don't know if this is gonna be quite a good color match today, is this Physicians Formula, the Healthy Powder. I don't even know if they still make this. They claim that this has SPF 16, which seems super random, and like, does that do anything? I don't know. But I have the shade, well, actually, I don't know, because the back thing is like totally gone. So we will never know what color this is, but it does look maybe a tad dark. So I'm just gonna use a really big kabuki brush to just try and keep it light. Oh, that is so powdery. But this is another powder. Since it is a tad on the darker side, I was hoping that once I work through my current powder in my Project Pan, that I would be on my way to getting a little more tan in the summer, so I could start panning this, because I can see, I don't know if you can tell, you can barely, I'm starting to see the like pan grooves in there. So I don't think there's much left in this. So I bet I could pan it pretty easily over the summer. But yeah, so that's my oldest powder. I don't have a specific date on this, but I am pretty sure I've had this for at least 4 or 5 years. So that's my powder. I just realized I forgot to do my concealer. I think it'll still be okay because I just want to do under my eyes, and I didn't really put any powder under my eyes. So I'm just going to use my e.l.f. Camo Concealer. Again, this is also not super old. Concealer is something I don't really keep a lot of around as well because it does tend to go bad quickly. So this is my e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. I bought this in October of 2022. So this is what, 7, 8 months old? And it's what I'm currently using in my everyday makeup drawer. I can't believe I forgot that before my powder. But I'm just gonna put some under my eyes. I feel like it's gonna look super light now because my foundation is like darker than I normally go. Oh no. I feel like that doesn't look too horrible. I might do like, I don't know, I don't put powder like directly underneath my eyes very often, but because of the weird color match today, I'm just gonna kind of, okay, yeah, that kind of helped. So that's it. All right, so now we really are done with the cream face products. So then I am going to use a powder bronzer. This is the one in my Project Pan. It's the Too Faced Chocolate Soleil bronzer. A little bit of a sneak peek of my progress. Probably doesn't look that much different from my most recent update video. But this is my oldest powder bronzer. And again, I don't have a purchase date on this, but I know I did buy this at like a TJ Maxx or Marshall's. So again, I don't have like an account or a way to like track that as easy as I do with like Sephora and Ulta orders. But I'm excited to be, you know, working on this right now, using it up. So I'm just gonna put that on top of where we put the Chanel bronzer earlier, just to kind of darken that up. And this has been a really good everyday bronzer as well. So now for blush, my oldest blush is actually a part of a palette. It's this Tarte Aspen Ovard palette, which I freaking love the packaging on this. I think it's so pretty. And the colors inside are also right up my alley, just super everyday neutrals, and it has a blush and a highlight. This is in my current everyday makeup drawer right now, and I'm kind of testing out to see, because some of the glitters are definitely, I think, on the expired end. They're really chunky and flaky, and maybe like shouldn't be putting them near my eyes anymore, but the mattes seem to still be okay, as well as the highlighter and the blush. So I'm gonna use the blush today. It's a Tarte blush in the color Made You Blush. I don't know if that's a blush that is part of their permanent line or is just exclusive to like this palette or other palettes, but it's a nice everyday pink shade. Like a pink neutral, really. This is another blush that I feel like maybe potentially I could pan. It's just really hard to pan something that's in a huge palette like this. But so I'm gonna do some blending. And again, I don't have a purchase date on this, but I want to say, we probably could look up when her palette launched. I want to say it was like 2018. So again, going on like 6 years, maybe even more than that. I don't know. I don't recall 100%. All right, so I think that's everything that I need to do before my setting spray. So my setting spray, again, is something I don't keep a lot of around at once. So this is just the Maybelline Lasting Fix Matte Setting Spray, and I bought this in July of 2022. So it's about a year old. I would say this one and the Wet n Wild Matte Setting Spray are two that I go back and forth between fairly often and are two of my favorites. I do test out other ones in between, but I usually do rotate back to these at some point. All right, so kind of while that's drying, we will do my brows, and my oldest brow product is my ABH brow powder. And again, I don't have like a purchase date on this, but I know I've had this. This was also one of my very early on first like high-end makeup product purchases. So I would take a guess that this I purchased probably in 2017. I have tried, like if you, in your Ulta and Sephora accounts, you can go back and look at past purchases, but then it only goes back so far. So that's what I did a couple years ago. I did go into both of those accounts in the past and kind of created a spreadsheet to kind of track the age of some of my products. And then for things like this where I couldn't, you know, it was too old to even be tracked in the website system, I would just put these in the, you know, the bottom of the list as the oldest products, and then just there's not a particular order. I just know that they're definitely the oldest. But I think the earliest date I was able to track things back to in like Ulta and Sephora was like 2018, 2017. So if it didn't show up in those purchases in those accounts, then I know that it's either like 2017 or earlier. So that's at least something to go off of. This is what mine is looking like. It did used to be like a two-sided color, and then eventually I just repressed it all together. But like this, the ABH brow powder really is like the never-ending product. And I think like full price is like $20 or $25. And I want to say I might have even bought this during like a 21 days of Ulta Beauty sale or something, and got it for like 10 or 12. So it's definitely lasted a long time, and I think definitely still has a long ways to go. For brow gel, I don't have a super old brow gel, so I'm just gonna throw in my e.l.f. Wow Brow. This is pretty much the only brow gel I use. And yeah, again, another product that I don't have a lot of brow gels sitting around. I pretty much just have this one, so that's what we're gonna use. So not really my oldest. I mean, it is my oldest, but it's not like I have a lot of variety or options. All right, so now we're gonna move on to mascara, and I have two products. First, I have a lash serum from Pacifica. I bought this in May of 2022, so this is a year old. I had the mascara previously. I'll try and link a video below where I talked about how I felt about it. It was a little bit of a confusing product for me, but I'm just gonna use this primer. I don't typically do this on a day-to-day basis, just if there's a day where I know I'm gonna be out and about, like literally for like 12, 14 hours, maybe I'll put this on. Then for mascara, my oldest mascara is the Maybelline Colossal Cat Eyes. I got this in July of 2022. And like the brush is super curved, so I might use this in a minute. Alright, so there it is on one eye. Not that one, just that one. I do think it is a nice mascara. Not sure I love how curved the brush is. Mascara is another category where I don't typically keep a lot of them around, and if I do, I try not to open a lot at the same time. So obviously this one is open, and then the one in my current everyday makeup drawer is the e.l.f. Lash and Roll. So these are really the only two mascaras that I have open, and then I do have a mini of the Cali Ray that I've been testing out on my lower lashes, but I'm just gonna use this today. Okay, so the Curve actually works nice for the lower lashes. That's the mascara that I used. I think all that we have left is highlighter and lips. Oldest lip liner is my Urban Decay Naked 2 lip liner in the shade Naked 2. Again, I don't know how old this was, so I must have purchased it in like 2017, 2018. One of my oldest lipsticks is the Revlon Lip Butter. This is just the creme brulee shade. This, again, probably purchased in like 2018. And then for lip gloss, it's the NYX Butter Gloss in Strawberry Parfait. Man, I used to love this gloss. And again, I kind of remember purchasing maybe this in like 2017, 2018. That was kind of when I was like discovering Ulta, because like I'm trying to think, I don't even know when, like where I grew up and where I went to college and stuff, like I don't even think there was an Ulta for a long time. And so it was such a big deal to me when one finally opened. And I do remember like this was one of the first things I bought, and then I think there was also another color creme brulee for this too that I bought and used the crap out of. And then I think I also bought the NYX like jumbo pencils. Like those were all the rage. Do you remember those? I don't have any anymore actually. But I'm just gonna line my lips with this Naked 2 liner. So that's the liner. Talking about all those NYX products also reminded me, I remember they had like a blush that was like all the rage and like super trending on YouTube early on, but it was like a weird color or something. It was like super neutral and like almost like a bronzer. I don't know, I'll try and find a picture of it because I don't think I ever actually ended up buying it because I was like, I don't understand like how to make this work. But I'm just gonna put this creme brulee lipstick on. Okay, so that kind of melds well with that lip liner color at least. And then we're gonna put on this, which is like definitely more of a pink. But man, I really did love this gloss when I first got it. Actually, this is looking really pretty. Now that I'm using this, this is feeling very light and like there might not be that much left in here. So another thing to put on my list to potentially pan. All right, and last but not least, we've got some highlighter. My oldest one is the Mary Luminizer from The Balm. I have repressed it because it is a very loose, crumbly formula. So I did have to repress it because it did kind of crack in some transport at one point. So I have repressed this at least once, maybe twice. But I also feel like this was one of those products, like highlight didn't always used to be a thing, and this was like definitely one of the OG like cult classics. And I mean, you can see it really is just like, it packs a punch. So it's a classic for a reason. All right, that is the finished look. Thank you for watching and going through a little history journey with me on my oldest products in my collection and using them to create a complete look. I actually think it turned out pretty well. I really like the simple eye look I created. It reminded me how much I love this butter gloss and this lipstick, really. I've worked on a couple of these in some everyday makeup drawers recently, and I'm just remembering how good these were, and I wish they still made them. Like, I don't know. And then also just like a nice little memory of like my wedding with my wedding day foundation. So yeah, if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment below with what some of your oldest makeup products are in your collection, how old they are, do they still work? Should we still be using these at all? But yeah, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.